Hey friend, when I was a beginner, I made these 3 mistakes a lot. I would muddy up my song, track fell out of the listening range, and the whole session was often a mess. So when you leave a track like this,
you leave it to the wolves.
But at the end of this video, I will have shown you 3 ways of dealing with this situation, so stay tuned. Chin chin. If you haven't already, download my mixing guide, the link is in the description, and here I give you 15 cheat codes to a better mix and my 10-step workflow that I use every time I mix a song. And the first problem is that you have downloaded too many third-party plugins, so you have too much of a choice, and I've been a sinner of this time and time again. I remember one time I downloaded a complete suite. I think it was the Diamond Bundle from Waves. Cracked, of course, and I had everything. Do you think I got a lot of mixes done? Not a chance in the world. I started fumbling around with these plugins, not understanding what the difference was between the API and the SSL, and I would just run around on a wild goose chase. What I sooner or later discovered was that all of these plugins were just making a mess out of my complete DAW experience. Now, the next mistake that I've done a lot is loading up a bunch of plugins on every channel. For example, there's a popular tip that you should high pass almost all the elements in the mix to make it more clear and clean up the low end. And so I would run around in my session high passing everything. Not only that, the feeling that you have to compress all the elements, compress the snare, compress the hi-hats, and when you're dealing with electronic music, when you have samples and not recorded drums, such as when you have a mic'd up drum kit and you record it, the compression philosophy is quite different. You really don't need all that EQ and compression on the sample pack sounds. Of course, sometimes you need to EQ them a bit to make them fit better into the bigger picture, but all in all, you shouldn't go overboard with processing, no matter what. And finally, and this is one of the biggest mistakes that I've done in the past, and I don't want to say that this is a hard and fast mistake all the time. I know that pro engineers do this a lot as well, but it's kind of in the ballpark of being a mistake. And that is loading up too many plugins on a channel so that you almost, I think it's 15 plugins. That's the max for Logic Pro. 15. I was right. 15 plugins is the limit on Logic. You need to do some EQing and then add some compression, maybe some saturation. Now we're up in 3 plugins. Maybe you want to enhance the highs a bit. Another plugin, that's 4. And then maybe another compressor because you want stereo compression. And then finally a limiter maybe. I think the problem starts when you apply some processing. This gives you some artifacts that you don't want, and then you pull up another plugin to redeem that previous plugin, and then that introduces another artifact, and so you have to have another plugin to smooth things out with that processing. So you are basically treating bad things applied by previous processors, and that's like being addicted to drugs. You know, you take some and then the next time you have to take more, and it's just a downward spiral. You don't want to go there. I went there, not with drugs, but with plugins. Cheers. So look at this track, for example. As a beginner, when you leave a track like this, you leave it to the wolves. And I know because I've done it a lot of times. I have many times left my tracks lifeless, half-eaten, flies buzzing and maggots crawling. Here are 3 suggested things that you can do in your next mix. They worked for me, and I hope they'll work for you too. And let me know in the comments which one of these 3 is most important to you. Number 1, make a go-to plugin folder in your DAW. Mine looks like this. Aim to use only these with some exceptions. So you have all these third-party plugins on your computer and you're overwhelmed with choice. You have choice paralysis. Now this is what you do. You take your favorite plugins and you put them in a go-to folder like this. Here's mine. Here I have my classic clipper, the Trackspacer, the Pro-Q 3, the Pro-C 2, the LA2a, SSL E-channel strip, the bus compressor, and so on and so forth, the Novatron, etc. This way, I don't need to deal with all my plugins all the time. I have my other third-party plugins. They're in the back of my system. I can always go down to the manufacturers, and then I can look up my isotopes, and I can look up my whatever. Number 2, listen to the static mix and jot down 3 things that pokes out the most. Stop the music and fix those 3 things. Then rinse and repeat. Move quickly. And when it comes to putting a plugin on each and every channel, what I do is this: I'll set up a good static mix. Check out this video to see more about how to set up a static mix. And from there, I operate in 3. What are the 3 most important things that I need to change here in the mix? Okay, the kick needs to be a bit lower. Okay, a bit more compression on the drums, okay, and some more high end on the piano. I'll go back to the mix, I'll treat those 3 things, and then I'll listen back. I will make the processing as quick as possible, no more than 30 to 60 seconds on one individual track, and then I will go back and then I will listen. Does it sound good? Okay, okay, tweak a little bit more on that kick. And then I'll go back and listen, and new 3 things to consider. Okay, oh, the snare is a bit sharp. I'll EQ that in the 4K range. Okay, oh, the bass needs to go way down. Okay, it needs to be controlled with some compression. And oh, the bass and the kick are fighting together. Okay, watch this video to see how you can resolve the kick and bass issues, and so on and so forth. Number 3. If your go-to plugin doesn't work when mixing, try another one. And finally, see if the track does better without processing at all. But move fast, don't overanalyze. And when it comes to the 3rd mistake, where you have one plugin and then you put another plugin on to resolve the issues that the previous plugin was making, just use another plugin. I've often experienced this. I put on a Pultec to give the vocals some more sheen in the high end, and I notice that it only gets sharper. I get that nice sweet Pultec air, but then again I get some nastiness going on in the 5, 6, 7K area, and it doesn't really match. So I would maybe pull up a Subphotic to manage that, but instead I'll just take away the Pultec and I will pull up a Neve plugin, Pro-Q3, or even a Pro-MB, a multiband compressor, maybe a Maag. So there's really no excuse to try out different plugins if a plugin makes your tracks sound worse, like as in the case of the wrong tool at the wrong moments, sort of. So it really depends on the source material. Helvete. So if you hear something nasty going on when you apply processing, such as EQ, compression, or saturation, just remove it and try something else, experiment. But don't overthink it. If it sounds good as it is, without any processing, leave it like that. This would be my advice to myself 10 years ago. However, having the processing tuned nicely in makes no sense if your reverb and delays are muddying up and making a mess out of it all. So in this video, I show you how I go about when I pull up sound effects such as reverbs and delays without causing any damage, but only making the track sweeter and more cohesive, wider, more open, and more natural sounding. So check that out. Hope I see you there. Peace out.